the lands between, now fractured and scarred, lie open to the return of the Tarnished. Those exiled champions once stripped of the grace of the Erdtree, now resurrected and beckoned by its renewed, though faint, golden guidance. A melancholic, pervasive silence blankets the vast plains of Limgrave, broken only by the mournful cries of gulls and the distant clatter of low-level conflict. The air is thick with the dust of ages and the residual magic of a civilization that tore itself apart. The ultimate destination is the Erdtree, its golden boughs a luminous, impossible beacon against the pale sky, symbolizing the promise of the Elden Ring and the crown of Elden Lord. But the path is not direct. It begins with the colossal, weathered fortifications of Stormvale Castle, a labyrinth of stone and stormwinds that houses the ambition of Godric the Grafted. It is here, at the most crucial bottleneck of the realm, that the true purpose of the lands between is unveiled. It is a prison designed to keep the world from finding peace, and a test meant to crush all who approach. But before the crumbling gatehouse, before the walls scarred by dragons and forgotten wars, stands a single, terrifying figure who serves as the realm's self-appointed executioner, Margit, the fell Omen. He does not emerge with fanfare or triumphant bellow. He materializes almost from the mist that clings to the cliffsides, an imposing, hunched shape wrapped in a mantle of ragged dark fur. This fur is not merely clothing, it is a shroud, obscuring the strange, muscular bulk of his body, hinting at the unnatural strength beneath. His presence is a deep bruise on the landscape, a figure of nightmare made manifest by the failure of the golden order he protects. His head is crowned not with the gold of royalty, but with the menacing, spiraling, twisted protrusion of a curse, a grotesque hallmark of the Omen race. Yet, in stark contradiction to his wretched, monstrous appearance, the weapon in his hand is a staff of pure, radiant golden light, spectral, ephemeral, and terrifyingly potent, clearly channeled from the very divine source that condemned his existence. This contradiction, a creature of shadow wielding the holy light of the Golden Order, is the first, crushing canonical puzzle the Tarnished must face. He is the personification of the schism at the heart of the lands between. His voice, when it comes, is not a battle cry but a lamentation layered with profound scorn and weary resignation, the sound of a guardian who has stood too long, who has seen too many fools rush toward their doom. Foul Tarnished, in search of the Elden Ring, emboldened by the flame of ambition. Someone must extinguish thy flame. Let it be Margit the Fell. This opening declaration is the first, essential pillar of the Margit's canon. His self-assigned purpose is not merely to defeat the Tarnished, but to extinguish the flame of ambition. He views the drive for lordship not as destiny, but as a dangerous, corrupting force. He sees the Tarnished as nothing more than agents of chaos, echoing the destructive desires that already led to the shattering. He is an obstacle placed deliberately on the path to keep the broken world from shattering further under the weight of reckless, ill-fated aspiration. The very name, Margit the Fell Omen, carries the accumulated sorrow and religious doctrine of the lands between. The term Omen immediately places him within the caste of the despised and the cursed. The colossal horns that crown him are the defining stigma. Item descriptions, such as those related to the Omen Bairn, solidify the tragic fate of this people. Omen babies born of royalty do not have their horns excised, but instead are kept underground, unbeknownst to anyone, imprisoned for eternity. The horns that crown Margit's brow are not merely cosmetic, they are physical manifestations of the curse, a sign of affinity with the primordial, rejected age of the crucible. They are the visible mark of divine rejection, a signal that his life was intended for darkness, not daylight. And the epithet, Fell. This is a title earned through terrifying, bloody deeds across the ravaged landscape of the shattering. The description for the Fell Omen cloak is explicit, detailing the fear he inspires. A cloak of ragged fur worn about the exposed body of Margit, the Fell Omen. Having slaughtered countless champions during the shattering, the Fell Omen has become a horror to those who harbor ambitions for the Erdtree, or for lordship. He has achieved the status of a legend, a monstrous bogeyman invoked to terrify knights and champions. Margit is a canonical figure of immense strength and terrifying efficiency who earned his sinister reputation during the brutal, destructive conflict known as the Shattering. His role is that of an enforcer and gatekeeper, utilizing his immense power and reputation to eliminate potential threats to the established, if failed, Golden Order. He is the guardian who has done his duty too well, becoming the relentless scourge of every champion who dared to return. He is the living symbol of the realm's final, desperate attempt at self-preservation. The canonical mystery of Margit, however, is not what he is, but who he truly is. His identity is the single most tragic revelation in his entire narrative arc. The full truth of Margit's existence is the truth of Morgott, the Omen King, the rightful, albeit deeply veiled, ruler of Leyndell, the royal capital. This identity shift is the cornerstone of the Omen's tragedy, and the key to understanding his profound, unyielding, and lonely sense of duty. The evidence for this dual identity is not subtle. It is meticulously inscribed onto the most powerful artifacts of the realm, revealing a secret kept for generations. The Great Rune of Morgott serves as the definitive proof of his royal bloodline and his rightful claim. This Great Rune is the anchor ring that houses the base, and proves two things: that the Omen King was born of the Golden lineage, and that he was indeed the Lord of Leyndell. Morgott is unequivocally a demigod, a direct child of Queen Marika the Eternal, and the true ruler of the capital city. His birthright is absolute. His power is divine. The remembrance of the Omen King reveals the defining characteristic of his tragic life, his absolute, solitary devotion to the Golden Order that rejected him. Though born one of the graceless Omen, Morgott took it upon himself to become the Erdtree's protector. He loved not in return, for he was never loved, but nevertheless, love it he did. This singular item description captures the essence of the canonical tragedy. He was condemned by the very religious doctrine of the Golden Order for his curse, yet he became its most fiercely loyal protector. He suffered lifelong rejection, yet his fidelity remained absolute, an act of sheer, punishing will. The most pragmatic piece of evidence confirming the shared identity lies in the seemingly minor, but functionally essential, item, Margit's shackle. This device, sold by the shifty vendor Patches, is described specifically. Shackles were used to bind the accursed people called the Omen, and these ones were made to keep a particular Omen under strictest confinement. The fact that the shackle, designed for a specific, powerful Omen, works to temporarily bind both Margit, in Limgrave and the capital outskirts, and his twin brother, Mog, is the final, concrete link. It confirms that Margit is the exterior manifestation of the Omen who was once shackled beneath Leyndell, Morgott. Furthermore, the game's physical reality enforces the identity. If the player manages to defeat Morgott, the Omen King deep within the capital, the initial encounter with Margit, the fell Omen at Stormvale Castle vanishes permanently. Margit's existence is directly and irrevocably tethered to Morgott's life force. The death of the king means the death of the enforcer. The undeniable conclusion is that Margit the Fell Omen is the powerful, highly effective operative alias and projection used by Morgott, the Omen King. Morgott uses this alias to patrol the lands between, eliminating threats and maintaining order, without revealing his cursed identity to the citizens of Leyndell. This secrecy is paramount, for revealing the truth would destabilize the very Golden Order he has sworn to protect. The canonical birthright and the subterranean prison. Morgott's story begins not with a joyous royal welcoming, but in the dark of a deep, forgotten dungeon. He and his twin brother, Mog, are canonical children of Queen Marika, placing them squarely in the Golden lineage. Yet, they were born Omen. The Golden Order, obsessed with purity and refinement after the age of the Crucible, viewed the Omen curse as a terrifying regression to the primordial chaos of pre-Elden Ring existence. They were anathema to the Order's dogma of perfect form and strict hierarchy. The law regarding royal Omen was one of calculated cruelty. While common Omen often had their horns excised, a procedure that often proved fatal, royal Omen were spared the blade but received a worse fate, eternal imprisonment. This spared them the ignominy of death, but ensured they would never see the light of the Erdtree they were meant to serve. Morgott and Mog were relegated to the subterranean shunning grounds, a vast, hidden labyrinth constructed deep beneath the pristine splendor of Leyndell. They were kept, unbeknownst to anyone, For generations, confined to the filth and perpetual night of the sewers. Morgott was a prince, a demigod, and an anchor of the Elden Ring, yet his childhood was spent among the wretched, discarded refuse beneath the capital city he was born to rule. The very foundations of the city were his eternal prison. The rise of the veiled monarch. The catalyst for Morgott's transformation from prisoner to king was the shattering, the devastating civil war among his siblings that tore the lands between apart. While Godric, Maelnia, Radon, and Rykard fought for power, territory, and the shattered great runes, Morgott was driven by a deeper, almost pathological sense of unshakable duty to the place that had only ever shown him contempt. He emerged from the shunning grounds, not to destroy his captors, but to protect the very source of the law that condemned him. He quickly proved his worth as a champion, becoming the legendary figure who slaughtered countless champions during the shattering. He was the single most effective military force acting in defense of the capital during the demigod wars, fighting the traitors of his own bloodline. The remembrance confirms his self-appointed title, Erdtree's protector. Morgott's duty extended far beyond the walls of the capital. As Margit, he waged a continuous, brutal, and clandestine campaign across the lands between, ensuring no force of ambition grew strong enough to challenge his solitary reign over Leyndell. He was the perpetual motion of the realm's defense. Margit's influence was not limited to his own terrible strength. He commanded a formidable, specialized, and elite fighting force known as the Knights Cavalry. The description for the Knights Cavalry helm explicitly states that these shadowy horsemen were once led by the fell Omen, confirming Morgott's role as a high-ranking military commander under the Margit alias. This was a force of singular terror. Their purpose, they were deliverers of death for great warriors, knights, and champions, acting as an elite assassination and interception unit targeting powerful individuals seeking lordship. They were Morgott's shadow hand, performing the necessary, brutal work of culling the ambitious flock. Margit was not merely a lone guardian. He commanded a terror organization dedicated to eliminating powerful, tarnished, and disruptive champions under the cloak of darkness. When Margit defeats the Tarnished at Stormvale, his final, chilling, dissolving words, "Cower in fear of the night. The hands of the fell Omen shall brook thee no quarter," are a threat warning the vanquished that the Knights Cavalry is now pursuing them. The defeat of the Omen meant the deployment of his most ruthless, nocturnal hunters. Margit's sudden and formidable presence at Stormvale Castle is the masterstroke of his strategic genius. He acts as the final filter before the Tarnished can engage the first Shardbearer, Godric the Grafted. By placing himself before Godric, Morgott ensures that any Tarnished who manages to overcome him is immediately neutralized before they can gain the power of the Great Rune. Preventing the Tarnished from claiming even a single Great Rune delays the inevitable, strengthening Leyndell's defensive posture by keeping the fragments of the Elden Ring dispersed and contained. Every champion Morgott eliminates is a day gained for the capital, a day of continued peace, and a day where his promise to Queen Marika remains unbroken. His later dialogue confirms the lack of affection, solidifying the strategic necessity of his defense. Ah, Godric the Golden! Willful traitors, all! He protects Godric out of tactical necessity, not kinship or loyalty to his disgraced brother. The Margit entity encountered in Limgrave exhibits two key features: his ability to wield golden, spectral weapons and his method of vanishing upon defeat. Margit's attacks are a relentless, dazzling display of golden, holy constructs, a staff, daggers, a massive great sword, all summoned from thin air. His damage profile is canonically defined by holy damage. This is the power of the Golden Order, channeled by the very figure that Order decreed must be imprisoned. Speculative, his mastery of holy power, despite being an Omen, suggests an unparalleled, desperate devotion to the Erdtree and the greater will. He uses the power of the Golden Order not by birthright, as an Omen is graceless, but by sheer force of faithful will, channeling the divine energy to create his weapons of justice. His power is a public declaration of his worthiness, a refutation of his curse. Projection. When defeated, Margit does not leave a physical body. He dissolves entirely into golden motes of light, repeating his ominous threat. I shall remember thee, tarnished, smoldering with thy meager flame. The dissolution confirms that the Margit of Limgrave is a limited projection or phantom of Morgott. His death as Margit does not kill the king, but merely exhausts the energy used for the projection. This allows Morgott to continue his true duties as the veiled monarch in Leyndell, despite the temporary loss of his external persona. The fight is merely an effective defensive deployment, a pawn sacrificed to protect the king. A second, non-boss encounter with Margit occurs at the outer wall battleground leading into the capital, Leyndell. The guarding of the gate. This appearance confirms Margit's function as a dedicated, active, and mobile patrol. He is not a static figure tied to Stormvale. He is tied to the entire defense of the Golden Order's heart. His words reinforce his contempt for ambition. Foul tarnished! What business doth thou have with the greater will, that thou wouldst dare to challenge the Erdtree? He perceives the tarnished as challenging the greater will itself, the ultimate deity of the Golden Order, not just the fractured political structure. His anger stems from what he perceives as a spiritual betrayal. The saga of the Fell Omen finds its ultimate, agonizing climax when the Tarnished finally breach the walls of Leyndell, the Golden Capital, and ascend the long, silent path to the base of the Erdtree. The city is grand, yet unsettlingly empty, a golden tomb. There, seated on the golden ground where the throne of the Elden Lord should stand, is the figure from Limgrave, stripped of his alias but radiating the tragic authority of his true station. Morgott, the Omen King! Last of all kings! The disguise is dropped. The king is revealed. The tragedy, kept secret for an age, is laid bare. The atmosphere is heavy with the weight of centuries of isolation and desperate duty. Morgott stands where Queen Marika should have stood, a crowned but cursed king guarding the divine object of his solitary devotion. His appearance is identical to Margit's: the massive, twisted horns, the ragged fur, the Omen's unnatural musculature. But here, the context is crushing. This figure, scorned and imprisoned from birth, is the last active demigod upholding the laws of the Golden Order. His full title, Morgott the Grace Given, is the highest of ironies. He was born utterly graceless, yet he is the one who took on the heaviest burden of grace, defending the Order from everyone else who was graced. He is the ultimate paradox of the fractured faith. The monarch's accusation and plea, the final sermon. Morgott's pre-fight monologue is his justification for everything he has done as Margit. He is the last faithful son, surrounded by traitors and vultures. Thy kind are all of a piece. Pillagers. Emboldened by the flame of ambition, he views the Tarnished not as heroes, but as pillagers, thieves seeking to exploit the ruins. He sees no nobility in their ambition, only the selfish drive that already ruined the lands between once. His voice is laced with exhaustion and cold fury. His condemnation extends to his own immediate lineage. Godric the Golden, the twin prodigies, Miquella and Maelnia, General Radon, Praetor Rykard, Lunar Princess Runni, willful traitors, all. This statement confirms the Morgott perceives himself as the only true royal, while his powerful siblings are all betrayers who plunge the world into the catastrophic war of the Shattering. His loyalty is absolute, his solitude profound. He commands the Tarnished to yield, prioritizing the stability of the realm over combat. Hark, the sound of the Shattering. Hear it in the wind. That is the sound of the Erdtree's grace, and the shattering of the ring. Foolish ambitions! Lay that blade to rest. I command thee, as the last of all kings, to cower in fear of the night. He repeats the threat of the Fell Omen's night, a final, desperate plea for the Tarnished to simply stop and leave the Erdtree in peace. His battle is fueled not by a desire for conquest, but for quiet cessation. The full power, cursed blood, and the final failure. Unlike the projection of Margit, Morgott the Omen King fights with his full, terrifying demigod power. The fight is a brutal, agonizing display of his physical strength and divine channeling. The spectral barrage, he unleashes a torrent of golden, holy constructs, daggers, swords, a massive spectral hammer/spear that pierces the ground. This is the full expression of his faithful will, utilizing the Golden Order's energy with mastery. Margit's cursed sword. In his second phase, he reveals his own unique armament, a massive, serpentine blade that is created from his own accursed blood, igniting with fire. The description of Margit's cursed sword notes it is forged of his own cursed blood that Margit recanted and sealed away. This is the ultimate contradiction of his life. He has spent an age trying to suppress his Omen heritage, the blood, the curse, yet he must now use it as a final, desperate weapon against the ultimate threat. His last, agonizing act involves embracing the very thing he spent his life trying to deny or transcend. The sword's flames are blood flame, distinct from Mog's, showing the unique, self-destructive power of the royal Omen. The dying confession, the unbroken promise. Upon his final, physical defeat, Margit collapses. His body, the vessel of a cursed prince, dissolves entirely into the golden light of the greater will, leaving behind the anchor of his power, the great rune. His final words are the most rich, revealing the truth of his motivation. "Oh, Marika, Queen Eternal, at least I kept my promise. The Erdtree is safe. Forgive me if you can, but I've had enough of holding this wretched thing." Marika's promise, he confirms a personal, deep oath to Queen Marika. This promise, likely made during or immediately prior to the shattering, explains his unshakable loyalty and his willingness to take up the burden of kingship from the shadows. The Erdtree is safe. His final thought is of the successful completion of his mission, emphasizing that his entire existence was dedicated to this protective duty. The wretched thing, this final, exhausted phrase refers to the crushing burden of his life. Speculative canon suggests it means the great ruin, the source of his imposed kingship, the curse of his Omen blood, or the heavy, thankless duty of maintaining the illusion of the Golden Order while being its reviled prisoner. He dies, finally, at rest from the crushing weight of his unloved service. Margit's life and death, culminating in the disappearance of Margit, establish his final, tragic legacy as the last true defender of the old order, a martyr to a cause that never loved him. The twin tragedy, Margit and Mog. The story of Margit is inextricably linked to his twin, Mog, the Omen. They represent the dichotomy of the Omen experience, and the only two known royal Omen. Shared curse, divergent paths, both were Omen and twins of the golden lineage. Both were imprisoned in the perpetual darkness of the subterranean shunning grounds, the true foundation of Leyndell. Margit's loyalty. Margit, despite the rejection, chose to uphold the Golden Order. He channeled his divine power into the faith that cursed him. His love for the Erdtree was unrequited, but absolute, a defiant stand against his own nature. Mog's rebellion. Mog, conversely, embraced his cursed blood in the wretched mire of his birth. He rejected the greater will, aligning with the formless mother, an outer god, and sought to establish the Mogwin dynasty with the kidnapped demigod Miquella. Mog found a new path to divinity. Margit died defending the old one. This contrast highlights Margit's extreme self-denial. Mog sought a new, accepting order. Margit fought to maintain the old, persecuting order. Margit's choice was the heavier, and ultimately, the more solitary one. The Omen and the Crucible, the physical contradiction. Margit's identity brings the conflict between the Golden Order and the Crucible into sharp focus. The Golden Order sought to define life, to bring order and stability out of the chaotic, original soup of existence. Crucible vestiges. The Omen's horns are described as vestiges of the primordial crucible, the chaotic, life-giving soup that predates the rigid, refined form of the Golden Order. The Golden Order sought to excise, shun, or imprison these vestiges, symbolizing their rejection of the messy, primal roots of life. Margit is the bridge. Margit is a walking contradiction, a demigod of the golden lineage who is also the physical manifestation of the rejected crucible. His existence proves that the very essence of the life in the lands between is inextricably linked to the curse he embodies. His entire struggle is the tension between the ideal of the Golden Order and the reality of life in the lands between. Speculative. His utilization of holy golden magic alongside his cursed blood attacks in the final fight suggests a desperate, lifelong attempt to reconcile these two opposing forces within himself, to be a pure protector despite his cursed form. The final collapse is the failure of this reconciliation, a surrender to the inevitable, primal nature of his blood. Margit's actions, under both aliases, were instrumental in saving the capital from falling during the shattering and in holding the line against the endless return of the Tarnished for an unknown duration. The unacknowledged king, the common people of Leyndell likely never knew their true monarch was the grotesque Omen they feared, cementing his status as the veiled monarch. His victory was his secrecy. His tragedy was his isolation. The ultimate price, Margit is perhaps the most selfless figure among the demigods. He was not driven by desire for power, conquest, or even recognition, since he used the Margit alias. His entire motivation, as confirmed by the remembrance and his final words, was devotion and the keeping of a single, sacred promise to the Eternal Queen. The last of all kings, the most loyal of all the lineage, dies alone, exhausted, and finally free from the wretched thing of duty and denial. His epitaph is etched in his final, poignant words: he kept his oath, though it cost him everything. The terrifying figure of Margit, the fell Omen, the relentless gatekeeper, fades into the legend of Margit, the Omen King, the sentinel whose love for the Erdtree was so strong it endured the rejection of his entire life, ensuring that even in the face of the shattering, the flame of ambition had to pass through the hands of the most tragic and misunderstood champion of the Golden Lineage.